So it's Peter Jakobsen from PR Nordic and Games Branding PR and Branding Specialist Founder. I think he will tell us how to think PR and branding. So Peter, you're welcome.
Thank you a lot for the introduction, and also hello to all of you, and good evening and good morning to those of you that have that, and also I hope that you have some good nice water or a good cup of coffee ready for the next good speak here, because I would like to touch a little bit within all this PR thing. So the main topic today is how to think PR, and I would have been loved to be in beautiful Kiev now, but as it is, then it's quite easy. I can sit here in my little office among my arcade machines and everything. So it's so actually some of the things I want to touch is, and I hope that you can learn, and this thing I want to touch today is both for you that is like an indie and has a completely start from a scratch, but also indie that are quite big indie teams and skilled, but it can also be for veterans as well, because I will touch some things about how to make it easy and how to think the different things. But one of the things is how to deliver a clear PR message. So we will touch how to find out it and what kind of process you have to think about to find it. Actually, it's not so difficult. It can also be how to reach your audience. A lot of people are thinking this might be different or difficult, or should I choose that and that, but that's also some of that we will touch about. We'll also touch about how to select your strategy and how to spot the opportunities, which is a quite interesting part, I think. Also, how to find the angles for your PR campaign, how to take it into action, and also this is something extra, but I think it's fun. But it's how all I've seen PR to change over the years from a PR point of view, and over the years, my own background. I have been working with the gaming industry for 21 years, and it had been more or less everything had been PR. So I started within sales, and I found it very interesting. But then I kind of liked that the marketing part was more colorful, moved to that, and actually found out that the PR was actually this undiscovered new thing, and I thought that was really, really interesting. It was about playing video games and eating burgers with journalists in old days, and that was amazing. But also, I can see that going that way from sales to marketing to PR, I can bring a lot of sales things into how we do PR and how I do PR. I have had the luck to work with within the industry with a lot of developer personalities, and also a lot of amazing people that made it the video games when I was a child. So I've had the highest pleasure to work with PR for Warren Spector and Charles Cecil and John Hare and so on. So it's that's a very amazing thing, and something I'm very, very happy about. And also been working with a lot of AAA titles. So everything from the old Grand Theft Auto 3 to Vice City to San Andreas to a wide range of different games. And over the time, it had been more than 1,200 games. Many years back, I also started to actually focus on indie. And I think I was actually one of the first ones in that area to actually start focusing and do campaigns for indie gaming. And it's quite different actually from if you come from a AAA title where you talk about a lot of the earnings and what you expect in a new game, what kind of engines and that. Where when you go to indie, it's a kind of different story, because you're branding something that might be a new game, a new IP. People do not know it, but people do either not know the company it comes from and the team. So you have to develop a lot more there. So it has been I think, a very colorful journey to go. Still, I touch AAA games today, but to go to indie, I find it very, very appealing and very interesting. So that's something that there's a lot to do within that field still. I've also been touching esport TV series, so I've had the luck to work with everything from Game of Thrones to Star Trek to Simpsons to Sons of Anarchy and so on and so on. A lot of film PR, so that have also been from Star Wars to the Joker to a lot there. Events, shows, sport. Even I've had the luck to do PR for Liverpool and football club and support with and handle some finals for Riot in the League of Legends, some European finals there. So there have been a wide range of things that have been mainly games, but also something that where if I tried it's not necessary within the gaming, but I can learn from that and bring into how to do PR. So we're not always doing the same, and we think in a new way. But many of you probably think that PR is dead and everything is about content creators and influencers today. And perhaps it is, but PR is not either one or another. PR is actually the umbrella word that covers a lot more. And I found this one actually, that quote from Bill Gates, where he was saying actually in an interview to Forbes magazine, where he was saying that if he was down to the last dollar, he would like to spend it on public relation. And I think it tells actually quite a lot. Cheers. So actually, what is PR? To shortly to do the definition. If you look for it in what is the meaning of it. When you're a company or you're a certain person and you want to deliver a message, either a message to individual person or organization or something like that, with the public. But as soon as you have a message and you want to actually and deliver that message to somebody you are actually targeting, and in one way you try to control that kind of messaging you're doing, then we talk PR. So if you have like a kind of a news you want to come out with, if you want to do it via photos on Instagram, if you want to use other people like in Twitter or Twitch, or you want to use YouTube, or you want different channels, that's channels, but it's still under the umbrella called PR or public relation. So it's actually building relations to the public. So that is it. And then I know a lot of people today say, what should I choose? Should I choose this or this or this? And actually, I think that's like the game we are seeing here. Either if you want to choose one way through the labyrinth or the other way through the labyrinth, you will get to the end. And as soon as you get to the end, you have actually been targeting something correctly. So either if you go to one content creator or another content creator, it sometimes it doesn't matter. And also if you want to go to one media or another media, it doesn't matter. And why it does matter is simply sometimes instead of targeting on the specific media, you can actually target on the media segment. And by doing that, we have actually to look into those steps that come here. So normally, actually, when I go in and say how I should advise people who start making video games, how would it be easiest to break it up? So you could actually take notes here, use it, and then you actually have a nice fundament for actually building a draft for a nice PR plan. It doesn't have to be so difficult. So the first thing normally I'm saying is that you have to think about where are you now? Where are you now? What do you actually need? The second thing is actually where do you want to go? And then how do you want to get there? We can add a lot more in, but we don't need that. We keep it simple. So those three things: where are you now? Where do you want to go? And how do you want to get there? That's actually the three, I think, 3 points that can be quite interesting and actually to look into. So step number one, actually. So where are you now? And that's where are you? Where are your team? Where what is it actually you want to achieve? So when I ask different teams, within indie game development, and ask you, so what is it actually you want to achieve with actually having PR or branding yourself? Is that to make your game a number one game? Is it to attract more team members or more skilled team members, or actually to secure investments. A lot normally say, we want number one, we want a number 8 title, or get a title actually number 1 in the charts. And it's possible, yes. It takes from my side, it could potentially be a lot of work, but it is possible. But I will say that thinking about that publicity could also make that you actually talk about the team, not about the game, but the team or the people behind it. There might be a really good story, and that story can be that you have connection from, or people will contact you from all over the world and say, the things you're doing, the things you're working with, or how you do, or how your point of view on a lot of things is something I want to work with. It can potentially also be that there's a person who actually is an investment person, and this person would like to actually invest money into your project. That could also be amazing. And when normally I say, if you have a good team, if you have a skilled team, and you also, have a good investment, most likely, not always, but most likely, you're getting one step closer to having a number 1 title. You have to think about that it's not always the title, the game, that needs to be promoted. Sometimes it can be more smart. If you are in the and in the startup phase, sometimes it's more smart to actually promote the team. Next one is step number 2, and that's actually, where do you want to go? And that's one of the things here is actually the one, develop your key message. And how do you find out that? I normally say, what makes you smile? Imagine you're sitting in a bus and you hear some people next to you talk about the game you just released. You hear actually what they say. You actually hear the conversation, and they say something that make you smile. What would you like to hear? What should they say to make you smile, so you barely are flying out of the bus? Or even imagine you come to a party and you meet some people and they ask, what are you doing? And you say, I just launched this game. And the people start smiling and talk about this great thing the game was, and the great time they have had to play with it. What should they say? Should you potentially say that the game was, some of the most thrilled action? Should it be that playing that game actually took their memories back to the old Commodore 64 days? Or should it be that it had been the most fun time they've had, or it was the most funny multiplayer game, or hot seat game, or anything? Or it was a game that actually touched them in a way, or it actually did touch some issues that might be, in on the globe today. It can be many things, but think about what would make you smile a lot when you hear people talk about your game. And I think what they will say will actually be your key message, or one of the key messages, because then you have to find out, that's the key message. That's actually what I have to take from where I am now towards the media, content creators, towards the consumers. So you can also say, go backwards. You find out who is your consumer, like you saw the Frogger game, find out, how to get there, how to hit my consumers. What kind of message, should I come out with? You get it from this, but think about, if that's my target group, what kind of medias, what kind of content creators are they seeing? If it's a game for young children, it might be that you also have to target not only the children, because the children cannot buy the game, so you might target the parents or grandparents. So you find out what kind of medias, what kind of things should I use to get my key message to the older segment, or to the mid-age segment, or to the younger segment. It might be different things. It might be that you have to use, you see if you can get into traditional written medias for the older ones. It might be that you have to go online and blogs for the mid-age, or you have to go for content creators for the young ones. So you have to find out, how am I getting my stories there? What kind of angle can I use to get there? So it might be that it's the same message, but you need to use different angles to get to those, so they can go to the consumers that actually will buy your game. Step number 3 is actually, How do you get there? And that's where I think you have to spot opportunities, because if it might be that somebody is saying we don't write about that kind of games, but on the other way, it might be that they would love to write about the team. Sometimes it's not always, as I say, the game itself. Imagine you are working on a racing game. That racing game can potentially, of course, get coverage in medias and among content creators that like to cover racing games, or that like to cover or medias that normally cover games. But when it is racing, you also have to think about that you can actually go to content creators, influencers that cover things that is racing in general. Even that is, it could be people who do street racing or something like that. But it could also be medias that is not gaming actually, but that covers, in general, just auto or car or driving or racing or motorsport. So it gives you actually not just gaming medias and content creators that cover gaming, but it could potentially also cover people who read, not necessarily gaming, but actually touch within all this car segment and all that. The same here with the burger a little bit. It might be that a media would not write about the burger, but at least we could get them to write a beautiful story about, the cow that make the cheese and all that, or the farmer who owned the cow. It could also be, the story about the tomato, where it's grown and how amazing it is, or how it has been bringing to this country with less use of energy, and so on and so on and so on. So you can actually do stories about each of the thing in this burger, even that a media or a person or content creator saying we're not covering burgers, but then you can take a part out of it. That will be it. That will give some lightning to your game. Another example could, for example, also be for opportunities that and I know this is not gaming, but it's still entertainment. Imagine that you should think about how can I do PR for a James Bond movie coming out. Of course, those who see the movie know it will come. Those who are interested in film and movie and all that, they know it will come. But you could potentially set up, features or angles that covers, the clothes, then the very nice suits they are wearing. So with that, you could go to all content creators, medias, people that are interested in fashion. You could also, for example, if let's say that one of the people have, been losing a lot of weight, or been potentially pregnant last year or something like that, and are completely super slim now for this role in the new movie coming up. It could also be, interviews about those that have been doing a training program. You could get that into people or media and content creators that are focused within training and in health. It could be also the people who are doing, the different selection of food at the film set. So it can be all kind of angles. It could even be, focus on the cars that are used. So everything is not about the movie, but it's about something that is in the movie, and in that way. Take it to gaming. It could be, how people met. It could be, the vision. It could be that there's a political touch on the game. It could also be that it's many years ago, last time somebody had been doing a game like this. It could also be that this game is bringing in some elements from other games, or a crazy story, how you met actually and as a team and started to build all this up. So there is always tons of ideas. You can actually, as a team, take a newspaper and actually buy 5 of the same newspaper and spread it out to your team. And every time you find something that you can angle to the game you're doing, put a ring around that thing you find. And some might spot 1 or 2 things that in one or another way can link up to your game. Some might find 10 ones. But it's a good thing to do, and you will definitely find a lot of good angles that potentially can lead the game. Sometimes it's even not the game or the game itself that actually can lift everything. It can be a little thing that you have been building into the game that actually can take a lot of attention from. So the media's find that's actually the point of angle. So rather have a little bit extra than a little bit too few. Also, I think one thing that is really, really important, when you go out, is also to be selective. Some people think, doing PR is just to take a press release and shoot it out wide. We don't do that. I think being selective would be 100% the best. So instead of take everything, focus on something. People say that with marketing, you can reach. With marketing, you can reach everybody. I would say with PR, you reach somebody. And let me come with a few examples here. I had the pleasure to support on a game from a team called Ghost Ship Games that came out with a game called Deep Rock Galactic. And instead of going out to everybody who play video games, we tried to find out who have covered games that were similar to this, who covered games that was in the same segment, who have showed interest for that, made a list of that, and then started to contact one by one and actually tell them why we contact them. I think that's a good way. Then the people you contact, the content creators and media, do not feel that they're just one among thousands. They feel that they're selected. And I think that if you have a campaign, instead of say I want to go to everybody, I think it's very nice that you have a list on 10, 50, or 100. That's enough. Take them in small bites, step by step. It's also more easy to digest. It's more easy to overcome in one way and to accomplish. So you don't have to have those massively lists where you send out. And I even do not think that the internet today or mail systems allow you to send out to thousands of people. Me personally, I don't do it anymore. I really select who I want to contact, so I really know that the receiver that I contact, actually there's an angle why I contact them, and it doesn't. It's not too retarded also to actually say why you contact them. And say, I know you have been showing interest for this before, or potentially say that I've seen in your forums, in the chat, from what this site posted or what you have been saying in your YouTube video. Go down and see if some people have been saying we would love that there will come more of this kind of games. Then you actually have a good reason why to contact this person. And sometimes you need to say that in order for the media or the content creator to understand that this is the reason why you contact them. So I think that a good thing is that target someone, not everyone. Of course, it would be nice that your game is known by everyone, but it takes some time to get there, and it's very difficult. If it's the first or second time you're doing a game, that it will be known by everyone. But I think find someone, put some goals and go for it. Of course, those you want to target need to be someone who can forward your message out to the consumers. So of course, if your consumers is boys and girls from 6 to 12 years old, of course, then it should be media as a content creators or social media or something that your target group will use, to get their news. So there have to be this kind of synergy. So one step for another step. So target someone, not everyone. Years back, actually, I had the highest pleasure to work with a team on a game called Landy Bandit, and the story about that, I think, was really great because it was kind of their first game to come out. The team is called the Bearded Ladies, and it was a Swedish team, very talented, and the game they worked on was the first real game, and it came out actually under this recession in, I think it was in 2000 and when was it, in 2008, 9, something like that. But there was a recession, and people, did not know the game and did not know the team. But the team actually had a very interesting story because they, first of all, they did this crazy cool kind of artwork and all that. But actually, I thought that the story behind the team was amazing. There was a recession, a lot of people got fired, they didn't have works, but you actually had a bunch of really talented people who actually there to join forces and follow their dreams and actually start working on something new. Even that or not all of them was in this industry, they choose to go into it and start doing it and actually follow their dreams. And I think that actually got a lot of good positivity. It got a lot of focus, especially in Sweden, because under a recession, you get a lot of, you know, negative news, but it's always nice that there's something good that can spread positivity and actually also be a lead story for other people, you know, to say, you know, I want to try the same, you know, because if they can, then I can also do it. So I think that they got a lot of really good coverage, of course, due to the game, but definitely due to them and their background and their achievements and what they did. You know, they dared to jump into something new and succeeded with it. So it was like a really good positive story for all the readers. So it was not necessarily about the game, but it can also be about the team. And I think that's actually a thing that can be really interesting. Think about that if your first game is not really, really good. And this is not about Lenny Bandy or the Bearded Ladies, but imagine that your first game is not good and you get a lot of bad reviews. Imagine how difficult it could be, you know, to go on and get an investor for the next one. But if you have a lot of if people check you out on the internet and they actually see that there's a lot of nice stories about you, that this is the game you're doing, or this is a team, this is the idea. So it's not necessarily everything about the game, but it can also be about the team, or that you have been inviting some people, you know, to come and see how you're doing the game. I think that can make it quite colorful, and that can also make a potential investor or people who want to work with you to say, we're not interested in that game you're working on now, but we're definitely interested in supporting you on the next one, because what you stand in for is something we really want to support. You can also say, but how should people be interested in me? You know, I'm just a guy or girl sitting and doing this video game. Imagine, you know, if you again are sitting in a bus and you ask some of the young people and say, who is a favorite? You know, who is a star today? What kind of is a dream job, or what kind of job would you have if you you know, should have a dream job? A lot of people would say that should be, you know, my idol, that you know, that's Messi or something like that, and I would like to be a soccer player. But if you say, what about making video games? And they would say, of course, the people who make video games are, you know, something they're looking up to. That's stars, you know, but they don't know who it is. And if I was saying, but the person sitting next to you in the bus is actually a person who makes video games every day, potentially the game you're playing, then they will, you know, see that as something amazing. So I think a lot of people who do video games today, they are actually, you know, very, very talented and actually has their own story and might be stars. That might not be, you know, that people are living in the big cities that are getting all the coverage, but imagine that you are doing a video game and you are living in a city far out, you know, that is not in the capital. You know, that might be that you can get a little local story in that place and bring a little bit of fame of that area. And you say that regional news are actually more trustworthy than national news. So start a regional place, you know, go to a local newspaper or local media, get some coverage there, and then you can take next step and next step and next step. So it's very often, you know, the people who are developing the games are actually carrying on really great stories to go out and get really nice visibility. I also want to touch another story, actually. I had the pleasure to work for THQ one time and working on Saints Row. In my past, I've been lucky also to work with THQ and work for some Rockstar titles. And I touched Grand Theft Auto, and then coming to THQ and work with Saints Row. It was kind of a little bit the same, or some people were saying, how can you do that? It's like a copy of work, come from something to something different. So actually, when Saints Row 2 came out, I tried to look in all forums and in everywhere online, and in the area, you know, I covered for PR, I could see that there was 99% that was against that there should be a Saints Row coming out, and 1% was neutral. There was no positivity I could find in my area. But the Volition who was actually behind the game, were actually saying that everything you see and hear about, you know, from the audience and forums and all that, bring it to us, and they would take it into consideration, you know, in the game development. So not only what journalists, or at that time there was not actually so many content creators, but what content creators could say, also see what the consumers are saying. You know, if they say, oh, the screenshots that is coming out now, they're too dark, then we know it. And then next time we'll come with screenshots that is a little bit more light, you know. It can be that they say that it's happening too little or that it's happening too much. Bring it back, you know, to the developer team, or take it in to you and use that for the next portion of assets and artwork you want to send out. And by that, you can actually deliver what people are asking for on a silver play. And also by that, you actually start eliminating all negativity one by one by one. The beautiful story here is actually that, or part, is that just before the game came out, again, we checked everything in forums and all what people were the sensitivity of the tone, and it was 100% positive. So the days just before the release of Saints Row 2, everything I could find in forums was 100% positive. It came out with massively good reviews. So we started actually with a game that had a lot of difficulties, by going into a area where you had the Grand Theft Auto game, but we managed to change it and got really nice feedbacks out of it. So a good learning from that was actually that really listen to also what the audience go to forums, and people will say what kind of forums, but it can also be, of course, you can go to Discord or Reddit, and you can go to different groups, for Facebook and all that, but you can also see, if there's a journalist who have been writing something, a certain media where people can leave comments. It can also be if there's a content creator that is playing something that is in the same segment, see what they talk about, take the tone of it, and use that, in your game development and what you will produce. One point also I want to touch is how I've seen this to change over the years, and I think that due to how games are released today, with going into beta and open beta and all that, makes it easier. Because in old days, you actually had to launch a game at a certain time, because that was actually what the shareholders demanded, more or less. So it had to be a time. So I've seen a lot of games be released that was not done, and there was no option, to correct it. So you could have games out, that was, half done or even worse. Today, you very often see that when people get a game and they start it up, they start to, download, different things and update and stuff like that. That's a plus. But from a point of view, going out and see how much coverage can we get out of it, because it's about getting, of course, coverage, not for all kind of things, but it's about finding something that really has a value. Or if you build a timeline, find some milestones that is naturally in your development schedule. But for example, in old days, when you got a review and they were saying this is a 7 out of 10, that was it. You couldn't change it. You could potentially change it if there came, an add-on or something like that. But today, I think it's quite lucky that if you do something you do like an open beta, people can play it, people can actually review it. But people can also comment again here and say, it would be cool if we could change this and this and this. And then there is an update, and then it's changed, and that actually gives you an option more to go to a content creator or go to a media that didn't like it before, and say, now the things you didn't like have been updated. Would you try to test that again? So even that somebody have been commenting or been giving it some time on YouTube or social media channel, or been reviewing it as a game media would do, you actually have a second option or a third option. I had the pleasure to work with the Digital Extremes on Warframe, and I've seen that people in forums have been saying it would be cool that you could add this to an open world, or you could do this kind of world. And then after a couple of months, this world is actually coming, and then we could again go to medias and say, will you do a review of that? So instead of in old days where you got one chance to get a review, here every time you do a major update or you do a different in the game, you can ask the medias again and again. Also, please remember to ask them to remove the old trailers, old screenshots and all that, so you always have the new, the fresh, and something that is actually in line with reality. So I think that's some of the things that have changed, and something that can be used positive. So every time you update something, you do something larger, that actually gives you a beautiful opportunity to go out and seek for additional coverage. So a little bit about all this. It's actually what I touched here is about where are you now, where do you want to go, and how do you want to get there. We could add more on about how do you then know if you really got what you wanted, and check out your return on investment and all that, but we can take that another good time. But I think this is the 3 points. The sub points you take under here doesn't have to be on each of the headlines there. can be what you feel would be nice. But I think if you follow that, then you at least have a plan, and then if you follow that plan, you have you're a very good step on accomplishing the way. There's nothing right, there's nothing wrong through the labyrinth. It's about having a good feeling about what you do. So if anyone have some questions or anything, I will be very, very happy to support on this part.
All right. Thank you for your speech. I think we have a number of questions. So let me read them for you. I think let's start. So, what is your token is all about to frame your team, game, or idea so it will fit the channel agenda, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. Cool.
Okay. Can you? Was it a question?
Yeah. So I will read it again.
Okay. Sure.
What is your token is all about to frame your team game idea to so it will fit the channel agenda, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, I didn't actually get it, to be honest.
Okay. The next question.
That question is the person is very welcome to email me or something like that, or contact. I will be the PR here can be everything. It can be branding, an entire team. It can be branding a game. It can be branding, like a milestone in something you're already developing on. The thing can be, you can put everything into it, actually, yes.
All right. Let's continue. Should your demo or trailer be a much better version of your game to get more attention, or it will result in refunds on release? The game will be not that beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because there's actually two sides of it. If I can bring this a little bit back to reality, what I saw one time is the same as a PR campaign. I have worked with PR campaigns that have been 30 days, and then when you come out with something, you deliver something that is way more than people expected. So in that way, you can get very, very high scores, and people say, "Wow, I expected this, but I got this." But of course, when you don't have a long window to push your game, then you don't have the chance also to build up, followers or a forum or some followers on social media that actually follow your game. On the other hand, if you have a long window, you can build up forums, you can build up followers, but you can also hype your game too much, and then even that your game comes out, people can be disappointed. On the other hand, with screenshots, for example, very often, and you can try that, when you see a game be announced, you see and that's mostly actually for AAA games, but then you see really beautiful screenshots. If you take one of those, and then actually when the game come out and you see screenshot from the actual review, very often you actually see that the screenshots that they used in the announcement a couple of years back are looking better, or is actually looking better. So they're not. So I think keep it as accurate, but also for the consumer, sometimes they don't actually understand it. They don't understand that this is work in progress, and that things might be changed. I think if you make a trailer, personally, I would go for something that if you want to do it beautiful, do it beautiful. If you want to do it simple, but something that really tells something or solve a riddle or something like that, do that. Because a game can be black and white, but that black and white thing can actually make you feel that you're more in the game, or you're more a part of the game, and you're more close to it. So there can be different things, but I think that a beautiful trailer looks nice, but it doesn't have to be, because still the trailer has to tell a certain kind of message what is coming out. what is nice to do in a plane is that you show a process. So you're not showing all the beautiful first. You're showing something. After some time, you show something that looks better and something that looks better. Then you have a flow, and you also have the content creators or medias that can be interested in seeing you have a healthy process. And also, even for investors and all that potentially could come and support you, they can see that you are growing with the product you're working and you're learning, and they can see that you're continuing probably with the next project and so on. I hope that I kind of answered, with different ways, but I hope that helps a little bit.
Okay, so how do you determine the line when too much information about your game starts to annoy the audience, or is the more the better?
About information about a game?
Yeah.
I think
Maybe about game announcements or upcoming game.
I think every time you have something you want to tell, again, an example. I tried to do PR for a game where I had to come out with a news every time there was a small update. And that could be the smallest update that is so niche, and then it becomes too much. But I think, making a plan and say, this is when I want to launch, this is where I want to start. And I think an announcement is always good. If it's a mobile game, an announcement is great, and say, this is in production. When you have a certain release date, let's say this is a mobile game, then you can actually start signing people up that can try the game early. So find, some milestones that has some value. It can also be that you have a new portion of screenshot that shows something cool that has something to do with the time of the year or the season, or something that's accurate about what is happening now could also be. So everything, I think that is not, going too crazy in details, but where you feel now there's something, I want to show. One can be that you have a little trailer. It can also be that you say, I have a portion of nice screens I want to share. It can also be that you say, I want to do my first interview about the story of the game, or I want to do an interview about, me as a team and us and everything, and try to reach out and see. So it's the things, you develop, and it's also going back to, spot the opportunities, because there might be different opportunities in the game development. It can be that your team met in a strange way, and that way something you want to talk about. If you met in a certain city or something like that, it can be that you can get like a piece of coverage in that city from a local newspaper or something like that also. So I think everything that you feel could be interesting for other people also. It can be also niche if it's a media or content creator that only touch this kind of things. Then you can potentially go more in depth with that stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it possible to work on a quality PR if you are a 3-person team? How do you imagine one of the devs in such team can spend time combining working on the game and PR?
That's really right. That's what people say. Some people. I met a guy one time, and he asked, "So what are you doing?" And I was saying, "I do PR." He was saying, "Why will people pay for that? I can do it myself." And I asked him, "So what are you doing?" He say, "I build houses." And I say, "Why will people pay for that? People can build their own house." So it's and this is right. I think that if you really are this 3-person team and you want to do also a good PR campaign, it can be really difficult. And I think that's where you can actually reach out to external PR people, like that. There's a lot of around the globe that are good, and you can reach out to those and actually ask and say, you don't need to buy a PR plane, but people can support you with assisting to a PR plane. People you can go out and say, I want to have a few hours to support, but things doesn't have to be a full campaign. It can also say that I have, what kind of milestones do I need? I need an announcement. I need to go up and present it for a certain expo. I want to find some journalists who can try it. and I want to have people alert that now it's coming out, and then I want reviews. It might be 5 milestones, and then you can buy assistance, or you can find people who can support on it and see how it goes. And yeah, that's external PR, and that's also what I'm supporting with. But it can be what is suiting, but it is difficult, of course, to run your own PR. I think I've heard about it one time, I think, where it succeeded out of thousands of games. It can be difficult, of course, but it is possible. And the 3 steps I showed is a good step, as a basic fundament to get started and to think in the process.
You're talking about being selective with channels. What are the best criteria to choose or not choose someone to give information to spread?
It's actually that this one is good because it's not about always finding the right media. It's about finding the right media channel. I got actually yelled out one time I did PR for when I worked, not for myself, I worked under a company, because I've been coming with a plan, and I was saying, I want to go to that media, and then that media, and that media. And one of the medias I didn't get, so that was bad. But instead I got 2 other medias in the same segment, targeting the same people, but they were even better. So actually, I should not have been yelled off, at that time. But what happened here was that it doesn't matter, and that this Frogger game come in. It doesn't matter if you step on one stone or another stone, as long as your message are hitting the right consumer. It doesn't matter how I deliver the pizza, as long as you get it warm and you get it as you ordered, and it's the taste you wanted to have. Then it doesn't matter if I deliver it on a horse or a bicycle or in a scooter or something like that. What I mean with this is that you want to target this kind of target group. So it doesn't matter if you hit that media, that media, that media, as long as you are hitting one of the medias in this segment that provide news to this target group. So if the more you have of those in that segment, the better. So I will never list and say it's this media and this media and this media. I will normally say this is this group of medias that more or less do the same, that delivers message to this. So it doesn't have to be as precise. It can just be the group, because either one tabloid newspaper here, for example, in Denmark, we have a couple of tabloid newspapers, and I know that if we are not getting coverage in one, we might get in the other one. But anyway, it's the same audience that reads those tabloid newspapers. So it will still, the message will still be delivered. I hope that helped a little bit.
Okay, and what about the situations when actually listening to the community makes a negative impact on the end product? For example, when the minority of the players are more vocal about some features than the others, how do you actually check that?
Yeah, that's good. I actually see that as constructive, because of course, if I'm doing something that I really work on and I'm happy and people come with it, I'm a human. I can be mad as well and say that's not good, But honestly, it's also constructive. Imagine you could have that 8 cents, and you could hear what people are thinking. Imagine all the mistakes you could remove, and so I think, of course, that people should make the game, because then it will be a game that will never be done. But I think use it constructive. And because there will always be some people, saying something, and there will always be something that supports it. So I think take it as constructive, and of course they shouldn't change the game, because you had the idea for the game, and you also know what you want to reveal in the game. They might say that something not good because something is missing in the game, but it might be there, But I think it's still good. Take it as constructive. Take the negative people or negative feedback as constructive, and it might be that some of it actually makes you a step closer to really make something that become a hit, or something people really like. It's free opinions you're getting, so I think that it's good. Use it constructive.
All right. One PR team said me that we can pay them some monthly fee and they will make some PR work for us even a year before the release of the game. And even if we don't really know ourselves, we should be done at that point. What should be done at that point? Is there some value which such PR companies can provide in such situations?
First of all, I think that it's important to know, around when you want to come out. Me personally, when I speak with teams, sometimes they say we don't know. It will release at Christmas time, but we do not know which Christmas. And then when you start work on this PR, more or less, I think then we actually get nailed a date and say this is the date. And there's a certain date because it might suit good in your country, but it might suit bad in another country. So we try to find a date that is really good. That's one point. And then we build up a plan. I've heard people that pay for agencies and then they pay up and they have used all the money up and the game is not out. And I think that's not good because in that way, it's not good for anybody. The developer team is not happy because they are building up something that and then suddenly we do not know where it is. So I don't think that's a super good way. And even not if you're an indie team, I think a campaign for 1 year for an indie team also is too much. I think even for AAA team or AAA game, I think 9 months is enough. If it's a big game. Again, the more you're building up, the more people expect, and even that you deliver something good, people say, I really expected more than this. So if it's a mobile game, the campaign will be short. And there are two ways, even if it's a freemium, it has to be very short and precise, and you have to run everything before the game comes out. If a premium, you can run a campaign that goes beyond when the game has released. If it's a PC or console or something like that, I think that a year is a very long campaign. So I think that get closer to the release date, find out, how should it be, but don't reveal things because remember that the more you start revealing out in the public, the more air goes out of the balloon, and then suddenly there will be no bang. Also remember that if you come out with a news, you feel I want to come out with it, then it's also difficult for a PR team the next week to use the same words and the same news, because today the newspaper is something you read, it brings news, but tomorrow you use it to packing or wrapping fish. So so I think you have to have an idea and say it's within this time, but you could also potentially say to that PR team, say, I want to have, a milestone called announcement. I want to have a milestone called where we start doing interviews with medias, then like a hands-on, or we have some that can try it, and then perhaps, I don't know if there's an open beta or a release, then we want to have reviews. And then you have 5 milestones, and then you can say we have a certain budget per milestone. So you're only paying for when you're ready for each milestone. And then I think that the PR agency have something to work with when you're ready, but also you're getting the right promotion and support when you actually are ready. I hope that helps.
Okay. Thank you, Peter, again. I think today we got a lot of tips. So good luck and enjoy the conference. One more thing, the rest of the questions, of upcoming questions, maybe you can answer Peter, looking for him in Pine as well.
Yeah, I will go in there actually, and if anybody have, so I will go online, I will pick up a coffee and then I'll go online. If anybody have questions there, I'll be happy to answer them. And also I'm just an email away, so if anybody have questions, and all the questions are, I will be happy to answer and support. So I wish you all a good day, and also thank you very much for your time and interest. And I hope that some of you got some learnings and a good start of the day as well.